Namaskar, welcome to Honest Astrologer, and today I'm going to do the most requested and the most difficult video of my entire YouTube career, that is Shani Mahadasha analysis. So I remember I promised to do it when we hit 5,000. We are at 8,000 and I hadn't done it so far. So here I am in a very Shani mood today. I'm dressed up in all black. So looks like today is the day when I'm going to do that. So let's start. So शनि तुम्हारा पानी निकालेगा, तुम पसीना दो या आंसू, ये तुम्हारी मर्जी. Shani would squeeze you hard. You give him your sweat or you give him your tears. That's the only choice which you get. I usually start my Shani consultations with this advice. So this video is going to be long, just like Shani Dasha. There's nothing easy about Shani, not even an article written about him or a video made about him. Okay. It has been almost 5 years since I did my article on Ketu Mahadasha, 3 years since I did my videos on Ketu and Rahu Mahadasha, which went viral, which got me some recognition over the internet. People find it hard to believe that I did them in one go and they were written in just one day, and I don't want to take credit for those articles. They were a result of divine inspiration. And after Ketu Rahu, the next name was Shani Mahadasha. However, I instinctively knew that Shani was going to be hard. Remember, the word hard would be repeated several times in this video. This is the favorite word of Shani. So Rahu and Ketu are about inspiration, Shani is about perspiration. No flashes of inspiration, no sudden aha moments in my Shani research. It took 2.5 years of study, dozens of interviews, many books, and tons of writes and rewrites. Now, just like Shani Mahadasha, this video is going to be long and hard. You can skip the legends of Shani if you wish to, and you can go directly to Mahadasha analysis. I put the timestamps in the description section. But if you have time, I would very strongly recommend listening to all the legends related to Shani, as it would help you understand this planet better, and it is a remedy for the planet to understand its stories. Okay. So Shanidev can be accused of being harsh, hard, slow, cold, and unforgiving, but nobody can accuse Shani of being unjust. If there's a word that is dearest to Shani, it is justice. And that is why Shani is exalted in Libra, the sign of justice and fairness. Remember, what's the symbol of Libra? The scale of justice. Shani is the hammer of justice. Okay. So let's talk about Shani Dev, the Lord of Justice. We will start with the legends of Shani. Okay. So legend number one, daddy issues, Shani and Surya. So it is said that in ancient times, when there was no such thing like a law of karma, beings started to misbehave and were becoming indisciplined. So Lord Shiva wanted to implement law of karma and bring discipline to the universe. Thus, his punishing energy was asked to incarnate as a powerful being who would make people behave and deliver justice as per their karma. This energy was born as Shani, the son of Surya, the sun god. Legend has it that as soon as Shani was born, his gaze brought trouble to his own father. The moment Shani looked at Surya, he suffered from vitiligo. Then he looked at Surya's charioteer, who fell and broke his thigh. And finally, he looked at the 7 horses in Sun's chariot, and they all went blind. Of course, they all recovered once the gaze of Shani was over. But by that time, Surya was pretty upset and ordered his newly born son to be taken away. So the father and son started on a bad note, and they continue to have a difficult relationship till date. So when I see a son Shani relation in a chart, it tells me a lot about the father and son relations. So for Shani, growing up, the only source of fatherly love that Lord Shani had was his godfather, Lord Shiva. So I call Shani the left hand of Shiva. Okay. When Shiva is in a good mood, he is Bholenath, the sweet, gullible master. But when Shiva is in a bad mood, he is out to punish the wrongdoers. He becomes a Dandanayak, the Punisher Shani. Okay, so Shani loves and admires Shiva, but he has a complicated relationship with his own father Surya. It is said that later Lord Surya realized his mistake and tried to accept Shani, but Shani, the Lord of Justice, refused to forgive his father and chose to stay away from him. He went far away and ruled his own cold and dark kingdom. According to some scholars, Shani considers Surya an enemy, but Surya doesn't consider Shani his enemy. In fact, there is a big festival of Makar Sankranti when Surya visits the house of Capricorn, the sign of Capricorn, Makar, which is the house of his son Shani. Capricorn is also considered the sign of fatherhood, just like Cancer is considered the sign of motherhood. So, this father son complicated relationship continues to do its dance. Now we go to the second legend. I call it the Father, the Son, and the Holy Warrior, Surya, Shani, and Lord Hanuman. Jai Bajrangbali. According to one of the legends, Surya imparted divine knowledge to Lord Hanuman as his guru. And when the education was finished and time came to give the gift of gratitude due to the guru, which is called Guru Dakshina, Lord Hanuman asked him, Sir, ask for anything. And son asked Lord Hanuman to bring his estranged son Shani back to meet him. Apparently, son knew the capabilities of his invincible protege. It is only Lord Hanuman who could have done this. So Lord Hanuman traveled to Shani Loka, and while he was going there, on his way, he was confronted by Mars. So Mars did not know who this was. He was very enraged at a process entering the realms of the planet and decided to stop him. Very bad idea. So Mars, the god of war, was bruised, battered, and beaten up by Lord Hanuman. So Lord continued to Shani Loka with Mars held under his arm in a chokehold, serving as his local guide. On reaching Shani Loka, Lord Hanuman politely requested Shani to come with him to meet Surya. Now, Shani being Shani, he refused to come and gave a stern warning to Lord Hanuman. Now, that's a bad idea. Shouldn't have done that. So, Hanuman did his rinse repeat act, which he did with Mars, and even the mighty Shani was vanquished. So, Shani and Mars both were humbled and ultimately realized that Lord Hanuman was no ordinary but a divine being, in fact, an incarnation of Shiva himself. So both apologized to Lord Hanuman and promised that they would never bother the devotees of Lord Hanuman. Now, for the record, Lord Hanuman represents the best of both planets. He is the most devoted servant. Yeah, Ram Sevak, best side of Shani. And he is the fiercest warrior, best side of Mars. So, by worshipping Lord Hanuman, by gaining his grace, you gain the best of both planets. Jai Bajrangbali. Now, the third legend, this is about the demon king Ravan. So, what happened was Ravan, as we all know, was a very great astrologer as well. Okay, he was a master astrologer and he had gained a lot of powers by the grace of Lord Shiva. And legend has it that he had managed to defeat all the 9 planets and had put them in a prison. Now, let me clarify one thing here. He did not control the 9 planets all over the world. His control was limited to the confines of Lanka. So many people question this. He had put all the 9 planets in prison, and Shani had a special dungeon for him. So during the Ram Ravan war, Lord Hanuman managed to break free all the 9 planets, and that is why he is respected and loved by all 9 planets. Now, another legend here is the chemistry of Ravan and Shani Dev. It is said that Shani is missing one leg, and there is a legend behind it. I don't know how far that is true, but I think I should mention it because it shows the power of Shani. So I have nicknamed this one a slip in time Meghnad's horoscope. So when Ravan's son Meghnad was about to be born, he ordered all 9 planets to arrange in a particular order so that his son would be born with a horoscope that would make him invincible. So as per the plan, Shani was ordered to stay in the 11th house. So 11th is the luckiest house for Shani. While other 8 planets were given their respected positions. Now, everyone followed the orders, but Shani, being the planet of justice, was determined not to allow Ravan's son to become invincible. So, at the last moment, Shani Dev slipped into another house, rendering the otherwise perfect chart vulnerable to defeat and death. This made Ravan so mad that he broke the leg of Lord Shani. It is said that because of this thing, Shani managed to make Meghnad vulnerable and Lakshmanji was able to kill Meghnad. So it is Shani that brings uh, Ram to Raman with his ragtag army and enables Lord Ram to defeat an invincible Ravan. Another legend is that Ravan used to put his Singhasan on Shani Dev and sit on his back. And Naradji realized till the time Shani doesn't look at Ravan, his downfall cannot come. So he said, why don't you put him face up? That would humiliate Shani more and will show how great you are. And that was one of the biggest mistakes. The moment Shani cast his sight on Ravan, Hanumanji entered Lanka, and we all know what happened, right? So, Jai Bajrangbali, Jai Shanidev. So, coming back to Shanidev, Shanidev is the left hand of Shiva, and he is an antithesis of his own father, Surya. Okay, I've made a video about this. However, Shani is anti Surya, but he shares a lot with his godfather Shiva. I call Shani the left hand of Shiva. One of the best descriptions of Shani has been given in the ancient story, The Greatness of Saturn. Okay. So it describes Shani as Lord Shani is tall, black, long limbed, and emaciated, with reddish brown eyes, large teeth and nails, prominent veins, a sunken stomach, a long beard, matted locks, and a profuse, coarse, and stiff body hair. His limbs are rigid and intensely harsh. He is cruel in authority, and his gaze, which is directed downwards, is utterly terrifying. Now, doesn't it sound like a description of Lord Shiva in a very angry mood? So, give this a thought. So, just like Shiva, Shani is neutral towards gods and demons. Okay, this is an interesting fact. So, Shani has a working relationship with even Rahu and Ketu, and Shani is best friends with Shukra. So he is comfortable with both the sides, but is not attached to any, just like Shiva. So Shani is very neutral, and I've seen this Shani people try to be extremely neutral and just. So, anyways, I can go on and on about the mythology, but let's get to the astrological stuff. So, Shani Mahadasha is a crushing time. The best representation of Shani Dasha is Shani is a Chakki, a handmill, Chakki peesne wala. So, it is said in that book, The Greatness of Shani, that if Shani is pleased with you, he will give you a kingdom to enjoy, but if irate, he will snatch everything away from you in a moment. So, this is a generic guideline. A lot would depend on the Lagna and the house placement of Shani in the chart. And I always say one should look at the whole chart and not just one house or one placement. So, like I've said, Shani तुम्हारा पानी निकालेगा. Choice is yours. Give him your sweat or give him your tears. So, people often suggest offering oil and burning oil lamps in order to please Shani. My suggestion is to offer your hard work, your sweat equity, and burn the midnight oil in order to please Shani. If anyone asks me which is the most powerful of all planets, my answer is always Shani. I've seen a good Shani take the native to a great life despite a lot of tough yogas in the chart. The problem is for most people, Shani Mahadasha is hard. Okay, so in order to understand Shani, we have to understand the Lagna impact. One thing that makes analyzing Shani Mahadasha more complicated than Rahu or Ketu is the sign ownership of Shani. Okay, so Rahu Ketu they don't own any sign as such. Shani owns two signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. So thus these two houses they become activated during the Shani Mahadasha, and thus the results for Shani can vary for different lagnas. Now the best lagnas to have for Shani are Libra and Taurus. So Shani becomes a Yogakaraka planet for these two. And I consider these people the luckiest ones. Two best houses in the chart becomes activated. So for the record, Yogakaraka is a planet that owns two great houses in your chart, one Kendra and other Trikona. So for Libra and Taurus Lagna, Shani becomes a Yogakaraka. And when this planet becomes activated, these two houses become activated, and people usually enjoy benefits while others suffer through tough times. Apart from Libra and Taurus, Aries and Pisces have a mixed Shani period. In some cases, I've seen Sagittarius Lagna also get some good results, but a lot depends on the Shani placement. But for the rest of them, let's just say Shani Mahadasha is no picnic. Now, one very interesting question I will answer here. People ask me, what about the children of Shani? What about Aquarius and Makar Lagna? And they argue with me, Shani is my Lagna Lord. How can Lagna Lord be bad? Lagna Lord is like a father. Why am I having a bad Shani Mahadasha? And I often laugh and tell them that I am a double Capricorn myself and I got hammered during Shani Mahadasha. Reason being, Shani did not get love from his father, Surya. Okay. So Shani is a tough father. All the love he got was from his godfather, Lord Shiva. Hence, Shani is a tough father to his own children, Capricorn and Aquarius Lagna, but a sweet godfather to his godchildren, Libra and Taurus ascendants. He's just repeating a pattern, you see. Childhood daddy issues. So there is a reason I told you all those legends. So if you are a Taurus or a Libra Lagna, thank God and thank your godfather Shani. However, it doesn't end here. Placement of Shani is supremely important. Okay. The biggest factor while judging the results of Shani Mahadasha have to be the house placement. Now, Shani gives excellent results in the 11th and 10th house. Remember the 11th house story. The natives with Shani in the 11th often all get almost everything that they wish for, and they usually inherit good amounts of wealth. Shani in 10th, I have seen in the charts of great leaders of men, right from great warriors to business tycoons to religious leaders, even founders of religion. Second house Shani is also a great position for material success. Most of the self made millionaires and billionaires from Dhirubhai Ambani to Warren Buffett have this placement. Toughest Shani placement are first, fourth, and eighth. Rest of the houses are somewhere in between. Now let's go to the Mahadasha analysis. So Shani Mahadasha can be a crushing time. Okay. So this is a generic guideline. Like I said, a lot would depend on the house placement and the Lagna. I would say one should look at the whole chart. Now let's understand the themes of Shani Dasha. Okay, it's very important to understand this theme. Number one thing is बहुत hard. Shani Dasha is a Chakki. I compare Shani Dasha to a Chakki or the old-fashioned handmill because it is slow and hard to operate. It takes a lot of effort to push it a little, and if you put in four fistful of grain, you get one fistful of flour. So the Chakki is usually associated with prisoners who are often employed to do this hard labor. You know, in India we have a phrase called jail ki Chakki. So there is a reason that Shani rules prisons. So in Shani period, everything takes long and hard, and you almost never get full results of your efforts. So another way the Chakki represents Shani is that the native is often crushed by it, and in the end, it brings out the best and the most refined in him by transforming him totally. Number two, Shane, delay and denial. Now, delay, denial, frustration, and tough luck are often the theme. Mostly, no desire is instantly approved. Many are denied. If you are stuck in a line for something and the counter closes just before your turn, chances are you are undergoing a Shani period. Simple tasks like filing a form could take three trips. Let's say first time the clerk may not be there. Second time the power might trip. The third attempt the printer might get stuck. You might have to beg and plead and even pull the paper out of the printer before you get it filled. So you don't live by your luck, you survive by your sweat and tears. Sweat and tears are typical Shani things. Further problem that comes with Shani is number three, It slows down your intellect. So, Jupiter to Shani transformation, you are no more longer Mr. Lucky or Mr. Smarty Pants. So, whenever I've seen a Jupiter to Shani transition, I've seen this almost every time. So, do you know a good student who is suddenly unable to clear his exams? Often, some unlucky students find that they did well in school but find their intellect fails them in their college. They apparently exhausted their Jupiter period during school and entered Shani period during college. Usually, such people are stuck with something like a government job preparation or a chartered accountant exams. So, while school during Jupiter Dasha was a breeze, the new challenge feels insurmountable as their good luck and sharp intellect desert them. They feel dull, labored, confused, and crushed. I often advise such individuals to take up at least a part time job as they would be able to make their Shani period a little tolerable. You have to sweat before Shani allows you to succeed. For an adult undergoing Shani Dasha, only studies and no work is a very bad idea. Remember, Shani likes workers. So you have to work hard and earn some money. You can study over and above it. You can study in addition. So Shani would be more pleased. And you might find your results are improving, but please don't be only student if you are an adult undergoing Shani Dasha. Number four, bad luck, depression, and self doubt. When all your attempts are frustrated, your mind slows down, and bad luck shadows you, one is naturally ailed by self doubt and depression. Things just do not seem to go with you, they are against you by default. You know, there is something known as Murphy's Law, which says anything that can go wrong would go wrong. It seems to apply to Shani Mahadasha natives. They are always on a fearful high alert, expecting things to go wrong, and they often do. I've seen Shani people be pleasantly shocked if something good happens to them. They're so used to tough times and bad days that they look at any good event with suspicion. Yeah, how can good thing happen to me? There must be some catch. That's the general emotion, and I can understand it. I've lived through it in my youth. Number five, make it do or do without downsizing and minimalism. In Shani period, there is almost always a feeling of having less than needed. Suddenly, the flow of funds, friends, luck, all good things which were abundant in Jupiter period, they suddenly get restricted. So you get the bare necessity, and any surplus is absolutely out of question. So you have to stretch every penny, adhere to every budget, settle for cheaper, smaller, cruder things than you would like. I advise my clients to go minimalist before Shani forces them to. Better do it happily. Number six, trust deficit, cynical and judgmental. Now, Shani being the supreme judge, it makes a person very judgmental during Shani Mahadasha. Remember, we acquire the qualities of the Mahadasha Lord. So, these people are always trying to debate two sides of anything and anyone. And thanks to their slow intellect, it could take forever for them to make any decision. They are harsh on others and harsher on themselves. Okay. Reflecting the Shani attitude, they can be grumpy, cold, calculating, and cynical of everyone around them. Shani brings out truckload of harsh realities to the native. One of the lessons is not to trust people so easily. So these people tend to be a little skeptical and cynical, and I don't blame them. Okay, number seven, broken hearts and battered homes. Shani leads to damaged relationships. Very few people are able to maintain good personal relationships in Shani Mahadasha, particularly romantic relationships, as Shani is a sannyasi planet and it can make them feel detached from relationships. Add to this the judgmental grumpiness and cynicism, and we can see where this is going. So, while Shani usually makes the native obedient towards parents and authority figures like teachers and bosses, but friendships and particularly romantic relationships are almost always a disaster. If Venus is afflicted, breakups and divorces are often seen. One sided romances that end in a tragedy are frequently experienced in Shani period. Now, my heart goes out to young people who are going through this time. I often advise my Shani Mahadasha clients to focus on career and spend maximum time at the workplace and only minimum possible time at home. And most of all, go a little easy and stoic towards their love life and take it easy with their spouse or their love interest. Theme number 8, approval seeking. What would people say? Log kya kahenge? Now, Shani likes to be praised and seeks approval from one and all. Now, this is perhaps one area where he is more like Sun than Shiva. But there's a twist, okay? Sun has enough self confidence bordering on arrogance. So, Sun would ignore, even ridicule the lesser mortals who fail to appreciate his magnificence. However, when Shani doesn't get others' approval, he feels that he is at fault and he must be lacking something. Now, Shani being Shani, he tries very hard to win that approval. Shani Mahadasha natives are almost always worried about log kya kahenge, what would people do, and they can go to ridiculous lengths trying to maintain their public perception, merry image. And it's a strange paradox. While they ruin their close relationships, they try hard to win social approval from strangers. Now, Shani was never a man for close relationships. Theme number 9, I will prove myself, tortured egos. Now, Shani Mahadasha people are often bent upon proving themselves. This is a real problem. Now, Shani is an anti ego planet which usually makes a person undergo defeats and humiliations in order to make him learn the plight of the people who are tormented and humiliated. Usually, the Shani impact of dull intellect and cynical attitude makes the native a butt of jokes and target of ridicule. Shani Mahadasha children are often bullied at school, adults are jeered at in offices and mocked in family gatherings. It is a tragedy because nobody craves approval and appreciation more than people undergoing Shani Mahadasha. The native takes himself and his image very seriously and he keeps boiling with rage. I tell these people to take it easy and stop trying to impress other people. They should also get rid of their ego and illusion of their greatness. Now, mind boggling amount of Shani natives consider themselves unappreciated great people with pent up talents. Guys, take it easy. Okay, you are not all that great. I often tell them, do your work, don't worry about the public approval. Now, this brings us to number 10, much ado about nothing, misplaced perfectionism. Shani has an obsession with details and perfection. So, if Shani is placed in a prominent position, in a tough position, the native would try to prove himself and he would go to ridiculous heights in search for perfection. When they cannot prove themselves in big things, they take all that Shani energy out on perfecting useless little things. They can spend hours choosing the right background color for a stupid presentation, cramming a useless poem, or slaving over unnecessary details of a dead project, while way more important and bigger things suffer. A sense of perfectionism and ego dominates their common sense and sense of priority. These people usually have screwed priorities. Theme number 11 of Shani Mahadasha, serving authority, saying yes, boss. So, Shani is the planet of service and discipline. During Shani Mahadasha, people are often faced with some sort of difficult authority figures whom they would have to serve and please. Now, this authority figure can range from a domineering parent at home to a tough teacher in school to a difficult boss at workplace. The native usually remains subservient to the authority figures during Shani Mahadasha. I often advise my clients to take up a charity close to their heart and physically work for it. This would please Shani and ease their difficulties with those authority figures. So while the things we discussed are general themes of Shani Mahadasha, a lot depends on the Lagna, like I've said, and most of all, the placement of Shani. So, keeping this in mind, let's go through the Mahadasha and Antardasha analysis. Number one, Shani Mahadasha, Shani Antardasha, the Chakki of karma, the crushing handmill of karma, the slow and hard period. Remember the Chakki? That's how your life becomes slow, hard, and crushing, and so full of effort. It is a well known fact that people start to look, act, think, and feel like the Mahadasha Lord. Now, this one big thing that makes transition from Jupiter Mahadasha to Shani Mahadasha is a tough one. People turn bitter, cynical, and slow. The mental agility and good luck associated with Jupiter evaporates. The easy breezy mental tasks now take intense effort and concentration, and they have to rely on good old hard work to get things done. So, while Jupiter rules abundance, Shani rules scarcity. This reflects during their respective Mahadashas as well. Flow of all good things in life is limited, and one is forced to downsize their lifestyle. Frequently, with the onset of Shani Mahadasha, I've seen people move to smaller houses, lesser salaries, simpler offices, tougher roles, and longer working hours. I advise my clients to voluntarily minimalize and downsize their lifestyle and actively adopt minimalism and hard work before Shani forces them to. I also advise them to take up some sort of a weekend project and an additional work or charity. Best way to handle this time is to busy yourself and do not expect things to happen easily. Nothing will come easily. Everything from a PowerPoint presentation to a government approval would take repeated attempts. It would be a good idea to allot 25-30% more time to everything in planning and expect things to go slow and hard. That is Shani Shani for you. Let's go to the second Mahadasha Antardasha combo, Shani Mahadasha, Mercury Buddha Antardasha. This is the time for practical purposes. So, Mercury being a benefit for most people and a friend of Shani brings the much needed relief to the native. The impact of Mercury takes away some of the slow mindedness of Shani, and native gets the much needed relief and occasional breakthrough. Due to Shani's impact, the creative intelligence of Mercury gives way to practicality. Shani gives the much needed maturity to the playful Mercury. The native is more likely to wrestle with practical aspects of life, like business planning, accounts review, bank statements, things like that, instead of getting into activities like writing poetry or reading fiction. The required mental boost is almost always put to work. So, with Shani, there is always enough and more of work to do. It is advisable that this time is used to finish big projects and learn new practical skills like accounting or programming and wrap up any big decisions because the next two Antardashas are going to be really tough. So, the next one is Shani Mahadasha Ketu Antardasha. I call it the tug of war period. Rahu, Ketu, and Shani, these three are the bad boys of astrology. Now, that's the title of my best selling book. You can check that out on Amazon. So, whenever these three enter your life, something starts to go wrong. Imagine two of them running together in Mahadasha Antardasha. Not a pretty picture. So, we'll discuss Shani Rahu later, but right now, let's discuss Shani Ketu. Thankfully, it's like 1 year, not very long. But it starts the most dreaded period of Shani Mahadasha. So, Shani Mahadasha followed by Shani Shukra is arguably the toughest patch in Shani Mahadasha. Whenever two malefics run together, life is not pretty, and definitely this one is no picnic. Now, once again, the mental faculties gained in Shani Mercury desert the individual, and although Shani hardship remain a constant, Ketu NUI and irritability seems to come in conflict with the Shani impact. The big problem of this period is that Shani wants to work and Ketu wants to do nothing. Remember, Ketu is a sannyasi. Shani is a karma yogi. He wants to work. Both of them are sannyasi planets, but Shani wants to work. Ketu wants to do absolutely nothing. People with Shani Mahadasha, you'll see them working. People with Ketu Mahadasha, you'll see them chilling out. Now, Ketu wants to be the unengaged passive observer who doesn't wish to be bothered with worldly things. Shani wants to do his karma and get things done. Now, Ketu resists as he knows the futility of effort. But Shani persists with the material reality of karma yoga. Now, these two start to play a tug of war. Just picture this: two powerful planets put a rope around your neck and then they are playing the tug of war. That's how this period feels. A person is burdened with responsibilities and challenges in the Shani style, but the required drive and energy is often missing. The native doesn't want to, but he has to. And this makes him highly irritable. So while work life is hard, personal life is harder. Both Shani and Ketu, being the sannyasi planets, are karakas of separation and loneliness. Together, they make the native's domestic life very difficult. The irritability and temper of the native gets out of control, and he can be hurtful and rude to his own people. He can seek solitude and loneliness away from family, and I have often seen romantic breakups, divorces, family separations, transfers away from family, etc. Particularly Shani Ketu Venus period is extremely difficult in terms of personal relationships. Then there is this energy fluctuation that a person goes through. These two blow hot and cold. Shani gives one very cold, hard energy to work like a machine, and there is always enough and more work to do in the Shani period. However, Ketu has a disengaging impact and can make the native lethargic, dull, and unfocused. Now, these energy fluctuations can create havoc on the native's body. Imagine a bulb going from 0 to 1000 watts of energy within 1 second and doing that multiple times. So, in the end, it would crack. So, results are same for the mind and body. One thing that these two do is they mess up the sleep cycle. One day, Shani wakes you up at 4 o'clock and it keeps you working till 9 p.m. non-stop. I get calls from people, sir, Shani Ketu, I feel like working very hard. And I'm like, just give it some time. On the other day, Ketu might make you feel so lazy that you wake up at 11 a.m., you call in sick, and spend the rest of the day doing nothing. Now, how do you handle it? The idea is to realize when Shani is taking over and when Ketu is taking over and behave accordingly. Your internal body hormones are imbalanced, your body clock is seriously damaged, your health physically and mentally is under assault. Sleepless and restless is the general state of the native. Second thing that these two damage is the immunity. Unexplainable illness, heavy headedness, and most of all, allergies attack the native, especially breathing issues. People who are undergoing Shani Ketu should take extra caution about allergies and especially in the post COVID era. And people with Shani Ketu together in their chart have seen allergy issues. Shani Ketu Venus and Shani Ketu Rahu are particularly intense periods, so be extremely careful. Most important thing is to take care of your body. You get only one. So do not let this damage be permanent because the upcoming Antardasha is going to be an even more difficult one, if not physically, then emotionally. This is Shani Venus Antardasha, and I have nicknamed it the King of Bad Times. Now, Shani Mahadasha is tough throughout, but its worst impacts are delivered during Shani Shukra period or Shani Venus period. This is the period when happiness in life goes on a strike. People often face repeat failures and frustrations at work. There are multiple problems to deal with, ranging from a bad boss to being passed over for a promotion. However, the real damage is done at the personal front, especially in the romantic and marital relationships. There can be romantic breakups, divorces, and marital disharmony. The good old Saas Bahu clashes can erupt and be a continuous source of stress. So, at times people ask me, this is a question so many people have asked me, why do these two best friends bring such a havoc to a person? So, short answer is that Venus is the king of good times. It is one planet that makes life fun. It rules mostly good things from love to good food to luxury travel. Venus is the life of the party. Venus brings the party with him. But Shani is not the party guy. He is a no nonsense badass who wants to get things done. So when Shani enters the Venus party ends. Now, let me use another example from my favorite movie, The Godfather. So, there is a scene where Michael Corleone, a very Shani like boss figure, goes to meet his fun loving brother Fredo, typical Venus figure. Fredo welcomes Michael with a party. There is wine, women, music. However, the first thing Michael does is to end the party. Then he gives a stare to Fredo, stops the music, and orders all the people out and starts taking business, while Fredo sheepishly sits behind him, knowing that he is no longer in control as the boss of the family has taken over. Party khattam. Similarly, Shani, the boss of Kali Yuga, puts an end to the Venus party, thus, Venus loses his power to give you happiness. Hence, all the good things go on a strike. Thus, this period is called the King of Bad Times by me. Now, you can read my article on Shani Venus to understand more about this. I tell people to work hard and adopt a minimalist lifestyle and avoid any kind of romantic or marital conflict during this period. A small altercation can result in a divorce. Next one, Shani Mahadasha, Sun Antardasha. I call it the ego crusher, the period of humiliation and redemption. Okay, so don't we all know about the complicated relationship of the father and son? Okay, so this period, while it is not as bad as Shani Shukra, it has its own crushing energy. This is the period when one is exhausted by the trials of Shani Shukra, and native faces the fact that reality is out of control. His control on his life is not as great as he thought. One often faces humiliation, particularly at the hands of some sort of authority figure in a Shani Surya period. So, that authority figure could be bosses, leaders, government, or a father figure. At times, the native's own father can be a source of trouble. Finally, the native realizes that after all, he is not as great as he fancied himself. And once that ego is crushed, and that's something very good for the native, reality is accepted and the person surrenders himself, his ego gets dissolved and he becomes more spiritual and accepting. So the haughtiness of King Sun is humbled by the cold realities of Shani. The trials, humiliation, pains, and helplessness turn a person towards finding solace in spirituality. The native goes from believing that he is the one towards the search of the ultimate one, Advait. In my view, one can turn this into a purifying and liberating experience. Remember, ego is the enemy. And this is coming from a sun in the first guy. And dissolving ego can be a great blessing, bringing the native out of illusion of his personal greatness, and it makes him accept the reality as what it is. Humility and acceptance would go a long way in making Shani Dasha tolerable. So, in my view, out of Shani, Rahu, and Ketu periods, Shani is the hardest to go through as long as one clings to his ego. So, Ketu lives through spirituality. Ketu Mahadasha is intense, harsh, but short, and it almost always destroys the person's ego. Now, once that is done, native can become spiritual, relaxed, and disengaged. Rahu lives through passion. Rahu loves ego and can often boost it. One lives Rahu Mahadasha through passion, facing intense ups and downs. Shani Baba lives through reality. So, despite the destruction of ego, one cannot disengage in the Ketu manner. Shani will not let you ignore the realities of life and would always bring you back. It is better to maintain discipline and work schedule in addition to taking up any of a spiritual or charity endeavors. But hard work and reality cannot be. Next, go to the sixth point, Shani Mahadasha, Moon Antardasha. I call it the uneasy calm. Now, Shani doesn't hit the moon with the same kind of intensity that he reserves for Surya, but I mean, Shani always has an improvement program for every planet. So, moon is the karaka of mind and it is the most fickle and fragile planet. Moon is used to taking what he desires and acting on his whims. So, it's like a flighty child. But here he enters the court of unforgiving Lord of Justice, Shani Dev. Desires of moon are put on hold by Shani and is forced to realize that his whims are not always the command. Thankfully, by now, the native has given up the delusions of grandeur and his ego uh, because he's cleaned up in Shani Sun period. Thus, the moon period is not that hard, at least at the external level. However, emotionally, this can be restrictive and frustrating. One knows and accepts that his desires won't be fulfilled, and this can lead to mental depression and frustration. The native can become half hearted about everything in life. Shani moon can also put stress on motherly relationship. At times, the mother can be in trouble or can be the source of trouble and worries. This period is sad but largely uneventful, and thank God for that. So, status quo is maintained and an uneasy calm rules life. So, in this period, it is better to remain disciplined and accept reality with a sense of resignation and enjoy the calm before the storm because the storm is coming with Mangal, Mars. So, Shani Mahadasha and Mars Antardasha is the storm that comes after the calm. So this calm is shattered by the entry of Mars, Mangal, the god of war. So if there is one planet that can stand up to Shani Baba, it is Mars. I'll do a video on that. However, it is not a pretty picture when these two tough guys go head to head. Mars gives the native the courage and energy to fight back, but not without side effects. So the moon NUI is replaced by Mars aggression and one is ready to fight back. There is a lot of action and some dangerous misadventures. This again can cause family disharmony. However, for the first time, this time the native is the troublemaker. He can become hyper aggressive. Native can get into fights and quarrels with one and all because he is so done with taking crap from everyone. He believes he has the right to give it back. You see the Mars impact. Family quarrels, road accidents, even street fights can occur. Some harm or injury can happen, especially if one has an afflicted Mars or Shani in the chart. I often advise clients to worship Lord Hanuman. Remember the legend when both of them promised Lord Hanuman that they won't bother his devotees. So, during this period, praying to Lord Hanuman, chanting Hanuman Chalisa or Sundarkand would be a good idea because it would help reduce the harsh impact of this period. Donating blood can also be a good idea in this period. The next one is one of, again, the most frustrating periods anybody can go through. Shani Mahadasha, Rahu Antardasha. I call it the cops and robbers period, the desperate times. Like I said, whenever two malefics run, it cannot be a pretty picture. So when Shani and Rahu run together, it is usually about delays, denials, and limitations. So I call this period the traffic jam of life. Rahu and Shani impact is not a happy one on anybody. Rahu wants everything, wants it now, and Rahu is very psychological. Shani is very realistic and material. So Rahu says if something gets done in 10 days, my job should be done in 2 days. I don't care. Shani is like, boss, your job would be done in 25 days. Have fun. So that outer restriction and inner desperation that crushes a person. So it is like being in a very bad traffic jam. Rahu is a gangster and Shani is a cop. So when these two come together, results cannot be peaceful. So Rahu wants to break every rule in the book. Shani, the incorruptible cop, wants to shove the rule book down the native's throat. Restless Rahu wants to run amok. Shani locks him up in his jail. Entitled Rahu wants it now. Shani delays and denies. Whenever these two get in conflict, Shani wins. By the way, remember Shani always wins. Okay, I have made a video on Shani Rahu relationship as well. So Rahu energy makes the native I want it now. Shani, the disciplinarian, frustrates the efforts, almost always delaying or denying the desired rewards. Especially if you have tough Shani or Rahu placements in the chart, this period can be mind bogglingly frustrating. So many people get into desperation and they try desperate measures up to and including unlawful activities. Very bad idea. This can further deepen the problem. Shani is ever ready to punish. So Shani locks up rebellious Rahu in jail metaphorically, and in your case, it can happen literally. So please take the legal route always. I have seen people go to jail or get punished during this period. One should particularly be careful when Shani, Rahu, Ketu, this 2 month period starts. I call this the 2 months of hell. I'll prepare a different video on this one. So a person would do well to have patience and follow his spiritual remedies, and remember, desperate measures are almost always sure to backfire. It is always better to follow the old school values of hard work, patience, and focus during this period. The native should keep his head down and keep his expectations ultra minimalistic and his conduct extra careful. Do not let your Rahu run a riot. Shani is watching. With this, we come to the last part of Shani Mahadasha Antardasha analysis. This is Shani Mahadasha Jupiter Antardasha. So, Jupiter or Guru is supreme benefic, Shani is a malefic, and this relationship it's complicated. I call this the seesaw. So, if one period baffles me the most of all Mahadasha and Antardasha combinations, it is Shani Jupiter. So, my father used to say only God can predict the results of Shani Jupiter, astrologers cannot. And I sort of agree, but I will still try to share what I know. But remember, I've given you that disclaimer. So, I'll share a funny incident. Most people I interviewed during my research found this period very hard to categorize as either good or bad. For some people, it starts good, ends bad. For some, it starts bad, ends good. Most of the people, it's a bittersweet period with contrasting results. So, Jupiter is in many ways a counterbalancing force to Shani. So, Jupiter is perhaps the only planet that has the power to match Shani. Jupiter brings the much needed positivity and tries to interrupt the harsh negativity of Shani. Now, this means war. When two entities matched in size and power locks on, it's time for a seesaw battle. So, the native often sees a seesaw of happiness and despair going from one extreme to the other continuously. Some days he is the glorious winner, other days he faces crushing defeats. Something that looks good. Now, this is the trap of this period. Some things that look good initially turn out to be bad, and some initially bad things turn out to be good. Confusing, right? I can empathize with you. Now, let me try a few examples of things that I've seen happen. So, in Shani Guru, one may get married to that one true love only to discover that it was a big mistake and then later file for a divorce. One may get fired from a job only to find a much better one. One may launch a business and do well initially only to file bankruptcy a few months later. And one may start to do well in a stock market or something only to suffer huge losses at the end. Confusing, right? That's Shani Jupiter for you. So once faith, ideas, philosophy, and core beliefs are severely tested, the native can make big decisions due to irrational optimism only to suffer the consequences later on. Or out of sheer fear, one can miss out on a good opportunity only to regret it later. Natives can go broke playing all or nothing and suffer the consequences. A leap of faith can end in a broken jaw. It's a very messy time. So I always suggest moderation during this period. I repeat, I always suggest moderation during this period because you don't know how anything would turn out. So don't make any life defining decisions like heavy investment, marriage, big property purchase. I warn you, you will be tempted to make those big moves, but please do not. For most people, this period usually ends in a disaster. So, when two pilots are fighting over for a control, it cannot be a smooth landing. This period usually ends in crash landing. So, brace yourself for a crash landing, the toughest Dasha Sandhi, which is the first 9 months of Mercury. So I have usually seen the first 9 months of any new Mahadasha usually full with upheaval, especially the first 9 months of Shukra Dasha, because Ketu claims the ninth month of Dasha Sandhi. First 9 months of a Jupiter Dasha, because Rahu claims the Dasha Sandhi. The toughest is first 9 months of Mercury Dasha, because Shani claims the 9 months. So with the change of Mahadasha, the entire setting of a person's life changes. I often say the word Dasha can be translated to condition. So with the change of Dasha, the conditions change in life, and with the Mahadasha change, the entire canvas of life changes. Usually, it's a very violent process. People change jobs, houses, towns, professions, nations, and even in some cases, spouses. The most violent Dasha Sandhi is from Shani Mahadasha to Mercury Mahadasha. The first 9 months of Mercury Mahadasha is terrible. I have lived through it and I can vouch for the sheer intensity of it. So, before handing over the native life to Mercury, Shani likes to give one final shape up beating. But like most things, Shani, this period also helps the person in the long run. At times I get calls from people undergoing this Dasha Sandhi period. They complain, oh, this is worse than Shani. And I tell them, hold on, wait for 9 months. Wait for it to get over. This period starts your new life. So after 9 months, a new you is born. At times it can be 1 year, usually it's 9 months. So Shani leaves you after giving you a very good beating, satisfied that you have paid for your karma and have learned your lessons. Shani toughens you up, and then he allows Mercury to take over and shower you with good luck, happiness, and most of all, smart Mercury intellect that allows you to make smart decisions and hence live a good life and find success. Remember, from Jupiter to Shani, your intellect drops, but when you enter from Shani to Mercury period, your intellect soars once again. But always remember, under that smart as a whip Mercury brain, you now have Shani steel in your spine and soul. And just like Shani, now you have become बहुत hard. So Jai Shani Dev, Jai Bajrang Bali, Har Har Mahadev, Jai Ma.